Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We're going to wait a couple seconds just for people to hop on and join us before we get started. So hang on with us and we will get going.
And while you're all hanging on, you know what to do. The rule here is you chat, you tell us where you're calling from, what city, what country, and if you want to throw in how the weather is, go for it.
Perfect. It looks like those incoming numbers are slowing down, so we're going to get started. So thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Michelle Jimenez. I am a product owner here at Scaled Agile, and I work a lot on the measure and grow experience, which means I get the pleasure of working with one of our partners, AgilityHealth, who we have on the call with us today. So before I pass it over to Sally and Inbar, our presenters, I just wanted to do some housekeeping items. So first and foremost, this webinar is being recorded and we will be sending it out. So if you have to step away at any time or you get disconnected, don't worry, a recording will be coming to you. The other thing is we want to hear your questions. The Q&A function is on, so please use that and let us know whatever questions you have. We will get to them at the end of the webinar when we can. So with that, I also want to introduce who is on the line with us. For those that don't know, we have Sally Ilata, who is the, I believe, founder and CEO of AgilityHealth. And then we also have Inbar Oren, who is in our product management. He's been on our framework. He's everywhere. He's all over Scaled Agile. So he's here to present alongside Sally and talk about some measurements, some metrics, and measuring what matters. So Sally, Inbar, I will hand it over to you guys.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Good afternoon, everybody, or still morning for some of you. Thank you so much for joining us. We have a really great talk lined up for you today around enabling business agility by measuring what matters, and what is it as an organization that you should be measuring, looking at, where should you invest, what are those three metrics that really matter. So thank you, Inbar, for being here with me. Let me just make sure I can share my screen and get the party started. All right, so I will, I'll just do a quick introduction for myself. I think I see a lot of friends and everybody that I already know, but real quick, I started this company about 12 years ago. I'm very passionate about using measurement as a way of accelerating your organization's transformation and using it never for punishment or reward, but using it to really help your teams grow. And I've seen the power of it, so I don't just talk about this, I've actually seen this work. I am a mother of 3 beautiful children. I'm originally from Sudan in Africa, and that is why you see when I've got my free time, which you can imagine I have so much free time, I am an activist and I've started a nonprofit organization called Sudan Next Gen, and I also partnered with another Agilist in the Agile community called Anu, and we started Africa Next Gen, so we can bring digital outsourced jobs to Africa. So that's what I do when I have free time. What about you, Inbar?
So I have 5 kids. I don't get a lot of free time, but I'm actually currently in Israel, which means I'm closer to where your free time work happens. My name is Inbar. I'm a SAFE fellow and principal consultant and contributor to SAFE. I've been working at SAI for a long time, working with Dean on the evolution of the framework, doing many things, and I've been highly involved in some of the work that we've done that led us to this great work with Sally along around the world of how do you measure business agility and thinking about it. I do have free time. I try to do martial arts, but don't get a lot of that, as just like Sally. But let's talk about the things that got us here, measurements.
Yes, let's talk about that. So one of the things that we really like to share when people say, what is it that your company does? We believe that in order for you to accelerate and achieve business agility, again, we're not talking about Agile, we're talking about business agility, because that should be our outcome, our goal. You really should do a combination of learn, measure, grow, and then scale your talent. So those are the 3 capabilities. Today, we're really just going to focus on the measure and grow. I'm just giving you a quick overview of some of our customers. Thank you to many of you that are already here on this call. But this is just for reference in terms of what industries, what customers have been starting to truly invest at scaling their measurement and their growth journey. All right, our agenda. you're going to see this is going to be a very collaborative conversation between Inbar and I, and please, post some messages or questions that you've got. We've got Trisha here on the call who's going to be, jumping in at any time to ask us a question if you feel like it's relevant. But Inbar is really going to introduce the three domains of measurement, which I'm so excited that Scaled Agile introduced this, which is the outcomes, the flow, and the competency. And for those of you that have been following us for many years, we've always talked about the three metrics that matter. We refer to them as outcomes, performance, and maturity. So we'll be talking about both of those and how can Agility Health as a platform obviously enable you to visualize and track those. And then I am going to tease you with a topic that's very important that will be in our next webinar in October, which is we've actually analyzed data across 4,600 Agile teams from Agility Health, finally made the time to do that and hired the right people. And we've really identified some of the top predictors for team performance. So we'll give you a little bit of a teaser, and that will be the next webinar. All right, Inbar, take it away. Measuring what matters, introduce us to this concept of outcomes, flow, and competency. And why did this even start? Why did you guys develop this?
So metrics have always been an important part of SAFE. We've always thought about that. But the way that the metrics article, and you're showing here kind of the old metrics articles we had at SAFE, was kind of more a collection of metrics. It was just a lot of them, instead of really thinking about how do we do a comprehensive measurement of business agility? How do we think about the why we're measuring? What are we trying to measure? How do we provide more guidance about some of the problems that can do when you're measuring? Because as you said, Sally, sometimes people are using them for rewards. Some people are using them for punishment. So how do we focus on kind of the right metrics so those things don't happen? And since it came up and up, we were like, we need to update our guidance. We need to rethink some of the way that we're creating around the metrics article. And so that's how we evolved the kind of to the new situation, to the new metrics guidance. And this one focuses on what we call the business agility value stream. It's what it takes to actually take an idea and get it to where that business opportunity is leveraged. Can you sense the opportunity? Can you fund a small thing? Can you organize around it? Can you connect it to customers? Can you deliver something small? Can you make quick decisions? And can you kind of deliver on them? So really this kind of business agility value stream. And as you said, we connected them to this three concept of outcome, flow, and competency. And for us, outcome means, do they meet what our customers need? Are we providing the right value to our customers? Then flow is how efficiently are we providing them to our value? And finally, competency, how well are we doing in actually practicing the thing that help us get to business agility? And we're going to talk more about all of those in a little bit. But those affect every part of the framework. I mean, they're starting, and you have to apply those kind of thinking of outcomes and flow and competency on the team level, on a team of teams in art, a team of teams in solution train, portfolios, and even the entire enterprise. So really think at every level, are we providing the right outcomes? Are we achieving the right flow? And are we doing the right competency? Now, so you've always been, as you said, been thinking about those kind of measurements. Can you tell us more a little bit about those three metrics that matter?
Yeah, they're completely aligned. So, this is one of the things that from the very beginning was my vision around Agility Health, is I didn't want to just measure maturity, because what I felt was missing is that all of the ALMs measure performance. They measure the quantitative metrics. Are we, feature cycle time, how many releases, quality and defects, are we getting story, velocity, all of those different things. And so when we first, came out, we're like, okay, are we just going to measure the competence side, the maturity, the practices, the behaviors? And I really said, guys, if we do that, we'd be missing the main metric that matters, which is outcomes. So I've always said that the metric that matters, and I think that we will be focusing on in the future, we're not focusing on it now. Not a lot of teams and not even a lot of business leaders honestly know how to write proper outcomes. So that's kind of the aha that I've discovered, is writing proper outcome is there's like an art to it. It's almost like when the movement to write stories instead of tasks happened, and everybody was struggling because the business leaders wanted to write features and everybody on the team wanted to write a task. And everybody was like, what the heck is this story thing? How do you find something of value that's right in the middle, but it's not a task? Same problem we're having right now with outcomes. So I would say that in the future, we will all be hyper-focused on outcomes, but we will identify and realize that performance is a leading indicator for outcomes and maturity is a leading indicator for performance. And those three areas is exactly what our Agility Health platform was designed to. That was from the beginning. I said, if I was a leader, if I was an executive, I want to see those three things next to each other. I want to see what's the maturity of my teams. Are they performing or not by pulling that data from the ALMs? Flow, right? Are they actually flowing? And then are we achieving any business outcomes? So when you think about what is it that we've built within the platform to answer that question, that the very first feature was, before we even measure the teams, how are they structurally? Are they structurally sound? Are they stable? Do you have the right people? Do you have the right allocation by role? Who are the teams and how are they organized? When I ask people that and I show them some of our dashboard, they're like, oh, is that who reports to who? I'm like, no, we don't want to visualize the who reports to who model. That's the very traditional. We want to see the teams in the scaled agile model. Who are the teams? Who are the trains? Who are the solutions? And what are the portfolios that they're under? It's a logical team structure. And then with that team structure, let's identify, are they stable? Are they allocated? Are they agile waterfall or Agile? And then we measure their maturity and their performance. So think about this as competence and flow. We do help manage growth. So I've always said that measurement with no action is worthless data. So if you're just grabbing data from people and if you're just collecting data from platforms, but you don't immediately know what are you going to do about it, and quite frankly, the team themselves do not commit to improvement and commit to action, that's another lesson learned for us, is that consultants coming from outside, doing their own assessment and then telling everybody what they should do only goes so far. But engaging people in a real conversation around where they are today, almost putting a mirror and letting them decide where they want to improve, that is what creates change management and actually creates the movement forward. We also, NBAR, have a very big focus on talent development and role-based growth. We've seen a huge push lately for developing internal agile coaches, upskilling scrum masters and product owners. And then lately, it's also been the RTE role. So I just want to remind everybody here that that is also an area. It's not just about teams. Teams are made up of individuals, and some of these individuals you need to upskill. And obviously the business outcome dashboard that we just talked about and that we will show. So I'm very excited about the new guidance from Scaled Agile, because I feel like we are very much aligned, and it's almost, I would say, honestly, a confirmation that we were on the right track from the beginning around those three areas. Now let's start with the first one, the metric that really matter, which is outcome. Tell us more.
I think if you're looking about outcomes, this is really important, as you said, Sally, because at the end of the day, we're asking ourselves, have we achieved the goal? I mean, the goal isn't to do safe. The goal isn't to do agile. The goal is to achieve the kind of outcomes that get our customers excited. Our mission when we started Scaled Agile was to make the world, to help companies make the world a better place by helping them build the kind of systems and solutions that they provide to their customers that really make people more successful. So for us, it's really about the outcome and some of the things that we're doing there. And it kind of starts with the development value streams around measuring kind of the portfolio progress, and really think about what are the KPIs that we need to focus on in order to deliver on the results that we need. And these KPIs can be a lot of things. It can be I don't know. It can be NPS scores. It can be conversion funnel analytics. It can be pirate metrics for software products. It can be a lot of things to really try to focus on. Are we providing the right outcome? And then really asking yourself, how do we connect these to the things that really matter to the organization, which are the strategic themes? So if we're kind of diving in and looking at kind of those strategic themes in SAFe kind of have are built around OKRs, and they have the kind of the objectives and the key result that we're trying to achieve with them. And so as we're diving deeper into a portfolio and trying to look at each one of those each one of the KPIs for the development value streams, we need to ask, are they achieving these kind of objectives? So again, each one of those KPIs derive from the strategic themes. Kind of in the next slide, we have kind of an example of maybe an objective around, we want to increase customer engagement. Okay, how do we measure that? Well, we have some key results. We're going to reduce membership churn from 20% to 5%. Okay, that needs to be translated to a KPI that can then be asked, not just did we deliver stories, not just did we deliver features, but did we actually achieve the key result that we wanted? And so I know that in AgilityHealth, you have a really powerful way of actually visualizing and really making concrete that kind of outcome-based result that we can achieve with the outcome dashboard. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is how we visualize it in Agility Health. We create an outcome card, is what we call it, in the outcomes dashboard. And it's very similar to what you said, is ensure seamless customer experience, so we can exceed our customers. So that's the objective. You always want the objective to be inspirational, cool. It's what we want to go after. And then the key results are here at the bottom. Kind of what you mentioned is very important for people to release. There are KPIs and then there are leading indicators. We refer to them over here as impact metrics, which are the KPIs, and then leading indicators. You see that little green thing over here? If you click on it, it makes it an impact metric. It's why we're doing this. So increasing customer retention by 15% was the KPI. That is what the company wanted to do. They wanted to keep more customers. But in order to do that, they needed to increase single call resolution by 30%. That's a leading indicator. That's not why I'm paying for this. If I'm the sponsor of this outcome card, and remember in the future, we're funding teams, stable teams, but we're also going to be measuring what outcomes did you get from me. So if I'm funding this outcome, I didn't pay to increase the single call resolution. I actually paid because I told you I want to increase customer retention. I want more customers to not leave me, and I want the NPS score to not fall below 8. That's what I told you I really want. That's my final KPI. That's my final impact metric. So we've learned that we should separate those just visually so people know which one's the leading indicator and which one's the impact. The other thing, and we got this from Gartner. We meet a lot with Gartner. We've been a customer of Gartner for many years. And when I got feedback from them on this card, they said, you got to add the hypothesis statement. And believe it or not, this has been so helpful. And the hypothesis brings from lean startup, which is, if you guys remember the format for hypothesis, we believe that by doing XYZ for ABC persona, we will achieve XYZ result. It's kind of like a story, but at the outcome level. And it has been extremely helpful to say, we believe that by building a strong foundation for our customer success team, we will have sustainable and repeatable processes for that, and we will increase measured by. So the addition of the hypothesis statement is something that Gartner had recommended, so we did add it. And this is just, again, to visualize this for you here real quickly. This is what it looks like at scale. So this is what it looks like when you're, this is the company level. This is a specific portfolio. I can go into a portfolio and say, what are your outcomes? I can go into arrested development, which is a train, or I can go down to a team. And that's what you're going to talk about next, is the importance of measuring all this at different levels, not just one level. Go ahead.
Right, because the portfolio is important, and of course we all need, and tying that strategy to execution is a key achievement what we're trying to do with lean portfolio management. But at the end, if we don't understand on the team of teams or team level what are the outcomes, and if we're only focused on outputs and the thing that I'm just creating a module of software, how does that help us do what we're trying to do as a company? I have no idea what we're doing as a company. And it's sad how often I talk to people at companies that are just starting out, and they have no idea how the thing that they're creating actually affects or is connected to what the company is doing as a whole. And that's kind of what we're trying to do with PI objectives. So at the end of each planning session, at the end of each PI planning, as we're planning the next the next PI, the next quarter, each team is providing a list of objectives. What are they going to do in business terms? So not just, we're going to create this module and we're going to write this code and we're going to test that. No. What are we achieving that will actually change things? So really trying to think about it in a business outcome and thinking about it. And then we get the business to actually rank how much business value they put on every objectives. And at the end of the PI, we ask the same business owners, how much did we actually achieve? How much did the thing we actually built affect the business of the organization? And then we track this in the actual value. So really trying to see, are we actually providing value or are we not providing value? Are we just creating a lot of work? Are we churning fast? Or are we actually moving ahead and creating a lot of things? And I think, Sally, based on what you were saying, this is really important, because if we have the portfolio some kind of hypothesis, but when I'm coming to the team level, I don't even know what the hypothesis was. I have no idea. I've just been told as a worker bee to just go and build something. I have no idea what I'm doing. So this kind of system thinking that you have in the outcome dashboard can really help make it more visual on what people are doing, and make it easier for them to connect to the real business outcomes of the company.
Yeah, we used to call it, so before we built the outcomes dashboard, we used to call it the enterprise visibility room in BAR. We did this at Vistaprint. We did it at many companies, where you walk into a room and, pre-COVID, obviously, everybody gets together and you can see full alignment. You can see what the strategic intent is. You can see what the yearly outcomes and KPIs are. You can see all of your teams. They're all kind of columns, and which outcome is the team mapped to. You don't see their work. Their work is there, right? It's aligned, the epics and the features, everything, but you're basically aligning teams to outcomes. And it's a really great conversation. And of course, as you can tell, many of our customers says, how do you scale this? We're all over the world. Of course, none of us had predicted COVID at that time, which just added another layer. But the whole conversation was, how do you create that visualization, that enterprise visibility room, to where I, a developer, can click on any level here, any level, and see who's working on what outcome and how is my work aligned to the outcome. And let's just say this green thing here, which is I'm going to go up all the way to the top. This green one, increase senior healthcare, right? So I'm just going to filter by that. So let's just say I, as an executive, said, can you explain to me, everybody that's working on increased senior market share within this product, what are the one-year outcomes? What are the quarterly outcomes? Who are the various portfolios that are working on that green aligned? Go down to a specific, actually, I think this was Wealth Nation that's working on this, but go down to any portfolio, to any product line, and just see, are they aligned? Are they working on that? We use color coding because honestly, that's how we did it physically. When we were on the board, we used the colors to show the strategic intent of what the organization was trying to do. And we basically filtered by color. We also realized some of the large banks that we've worked with said, but I want to filter by line of business. I want to filter by where is the outcome is and maturity. I want to filter by outcomes that are on track or at risk or off track. So we realized that people want to look at outcomes from a lot of different angles. You know what I mean? They don't want to just see what is the outcome. They really want to start tracking against it. And I'm hoping in the future, Inbar, that this will be where people start. And then they'll be like, oh, I can see that this team is struggling or this group is struggling. Now I want to go to the insights and understand their maturity and their performance, which are right next to each other. And that brings us to the next conversation here around, well, actually, let's pause here for a second. I just shared some of what we've learned around outcomes, which honestly, they're hard. They seem so easy. Those cards that we just both showed, it just seems like straight up. We in our own company have been doing outcome-based planning for the last 3 years, and we stumble into writing outputs as outcomes. We stumble into not reviewing them as frequently as we should. I would say finally, we've got the momentum. We brought in amazing Felipe Castro. He came to our office and really did a lot of awesome training. So highly recommend you guys check out felipecastro.com on outcomes and OKR. But it was great. And it's almost like a new muscle that you have to build because we are hardwired to think about outputs, features, deliverables, projects, tasks. This idea of outcomes is a little bit new to us. So I'm curious, Inbar, what are you seeing happening and what do you foresee in terms of maturing organizations around outcome-based planning?
So this is an interesting question, Sally. We see this changing. Organizations are really looking to understand how can they think at that level of the outcome, and how can they really connect some of the things that are happening. And just like you showed in the dashboard, how do I know if the things that I'm setting up as strategy affect execution? And I think if you're looking at the business agility value stream that we showed earlier, I think this is a key aspect of business agility. Let's say that something happened, and we can take COVID as an example. Something changed, dramatic things has just changed in the market. I can sit at the top of the company and have a great idea. I can change a dial, but if that doesn't change anything, that doesn't trickle to actual execution in the company, I didn't do anything. So I think people are asking themselves more and more, how can I measure what I'm doing? How can I set the outcomes? And how can I tweak those dials at any level of the organization and make sure that I can see the information flowing in both ways and really affect the solution? That's the goal, right? Sally, what's the goal of business agility? Why are we trying to do it? It's not just for its sake. It's to really be able to affect things as they happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, deliver value from a business. I want to leave people with a practical, real world, I would say, insight that we've gained. When we're creating outcomes, the whole test it, nail it, scale it is a very important question for you to ask. When you're thinking about what you're trying to do with the outcome, let's say it's a portal that you're building to serve customers. That portal that's going to serve customers, are you in the next quarter, especially in the next quarter, in the next PI, do you need to test it, nail it or scale the portal, because your actual outcome card and the key results that you're measuring are very different. And what I've found in bar is everybody wants to write the outcome card based on the scale it model. They're immediately writing, when they move it to production and there's full kind of penetration of the market, how are they going to measure success? But what I have to explain to them, think about feature versus story. The way you get down to a story, just like you're kind of using outcome cards, the way you get down to a PI level or a 6-month outcome is to think about, how will I test or nail that portal before I scale it? Can I create a prototype and show it and get 5 out of 7 customers to say they would use it? Can I create a prototype and put some pricing out there and make sure that X number % of customers say they'll pay for it? They're not actually paying for it, but just even an intent to commit. Those kind of metrics, the intent metrics, the initial satisfaction with the UI, those are just tested. Can I actually put it in front of only 1 customer and have them use it and get feedback from them? So I just want you guys to think about test it, nail it, scale it, because it helps you break down those outcomes from 1 year to, you know, PI level objectives in a way that otherwise you're always going to be chasing that number that will never happen until 12 to 18 months from now. And the teams just don't get motivated by that because nothing's changing.
And Sally and Inbar, we've got a follow-on question that goes with that before we move on, if you don't mind.
Let's do it, for sure.
What happens to the objective of a PI when it didn't get 50% of its value by the end of the PI? Unlike half-completed user stories or tasks, do we split and pass the uncompleted work to the next PI, or do we do something different? So when you go back to your outcome card, if you only got half of it done, if you only experienced half of the progress, what do you do with what's left?
I'm going to give the Agility Health answer, and then Inbar, if you can give the Scaled Agile answer. For us, an outcome card continues to live, and it's just, you know, you're basically trying to accomplish these numbers over here. So we really don't reset this outcome card. We continue to try to achieve the outcome, but we basically measure and realize we didn't achieve it in the last. So it's not like a story that we end and we have to change, but we do at the beginning of every PI update our outcomes. So if your goal was too ambitious, and this is why we have the little comments over here. So I'll just share real quickly, because you're going to learn a lot while you're building outcomes, in that some of your initial ambitions were too unrealistic. So we have this little comment section where you can continue to add your learnings, which is, we were way too ambitious. That goal was not realistic. That's not actually the number that we need to be. So what we would say is use the end of the PI, especially in that, during that, you know, system demo, the inspect and the adapt, to review outcomes, kind of insert that into your normal process of reviewing. Did we achieve them? Did we not achieve them? Do we need to modify any of these numbers? What did we learn? Please remember to track what you've learned about that metric, because other people can see it and learn from it. But we typically don't split the outcome card. We keep it going until it's achieved, and then we can sunset it. Or if we sit and say, you know what, this whole outcome doesn't make sense anymore, then we will create a new outcome card for that next PI or for that next year. So we make a decision as a team, is this really going to continue to invest in this outcome? Did we achieve this outcome? Or are we canceling this outcome and building a new outcome? But I'll let Inbar also provide his 2 cents here.
So as far as SAFE is concerned, first of all, we have to remember that the PI objectives, and part of the reason we have actual business value and the business value in the beginning, is to try to see predictability. And one of the flow metrics that we track in the 6 SAFE flow metrics, one of them is the flow predictability. How are we actually doing in achieving business value? So really seeing that we only delivered 50% of the value just tells us about how predictable are we in delivering value. But when we get to the next PI, the fact that we delivered 50% or 10% or 90%, the next question is, what's the most important thing to do right now? Because in a system of flow, the most important question is to ask ourselves, what's the most important thing to do right now? So we could continue working on the same thing, or if new things came up, if new opportunities, now the other 50% is actually less important than other opportunities that have risen to the top, we won't continue to work on it. So we might defer it for a PI, and we might just close the opportunity up completely because we're done with it. So it really depends on what's happening. You can't sense opportunity and be agile if you're unwilling to say, wait, but I've already invested 50% in it. When we talk about strategy agility, it's about the ability to actually not think about sunk costs. Yes, we've invested in it. Yes, we worked on it, but is it still the most important thing to work on the next PI? So sometimes and sometimes not.
Wonderful. That's perfect, Inbar. organizational competency. We refer to it as maturity, but I like the word competency as well. Tell us more, Inbar.
So as we were thinking through this business agility value stream that we already talked about a little bit, and it has all those things around the ability to sense an opportunity or break it into a small thing. And Sal, you talked about the part of the lean startup, the minimal viable product. How do we do it? As we research, what does it take to actually achieve and improve that business agility value stream? We kind of built this idea of there are certain competencies, there are certain things that you have to be really good at. And so SAFE describes a set of 7 core competencies of business agility that, as you can see, affect different parts of the business agility value stream. If you're thinking about organizational agility, that affects sensing opportunities and organizing around value. If you think about team and technical agility, that's more around, again, organizing around value, but also the ability to deliver value continuously. If it's something like lean portfolio management, it's about the ability to fund and the ability to actually make the decision, as we just talked about, to say, no, we're going to pivot. We made the decision. And if it's ADP or ESD, and somebody's asking about this in Slack, in the chat, Agile product delivery and enterprise solution delivery, if those are about how do we understand our customers, how do we really create customer-centric approaches, and how do we use design thinking, those drive that kind of middle of the business agility framework. And so we think it's very central to also ask yourself, if you want to improve this, how are you doing on that maturity? How are you doing in those competencies? How are you doing in those improvements? So one of the things that I think are really critical, I think will be kind of our takeaway from this webinar that we're going to send people to do, is we want you to go and actually measure this aspect. And Agility Health provide us with a really, really cool visualization of these competencies and the parts below them to really understand how do we assess across these 7 core competencies, how do we measure ourselves around business agility, and how do we know how well we're doing with each one of those competencies and really improving them and really getting better, and how do we create a baseline and demonstrate our progress to show that we're doing and progressing. But as you said, Sally, it's not about like a reward. Yay, I moved from point A to point B, or a punishment. You didn't move from point A to point B, or why is the other portfolio doing better than you? It's about our own celebration of, look, we are making progress in our ability to actually be better and in really achieve and sustain business agility. So I think this is really important. I think that those kind of assessments that we have in Agility Health are so pivotal to the ability to do this. And we've actually just released a new one, a new version of the business agility.
And I want to mention something about the new one and why I'm excited about it. I mean, I'm going to be very honest. People know we've had our business agility, our enterprise business agility radar for years now, and it's been very popular. And one of the comments and the feedback that we got when we were like, well, especially if it's a customer that's all, adopting SAFE, and we really like to show all of the radars, they'll always say, but I'm working with an executive team and we don't want to bring in the SAFE terminology yet. So can we just use your EBA radar, the enterprise business agility, because it's neutral. So what I'm excited about what you did recently, Inbar, with this new version is that you have removed the specific SAFE language and you've really made it more generic and more business friendly and more leadership friendly. And tell us a little bit about what drove you to do that. And for those listening over here, this is available now. It's available on the platform. If you're a customer through Agility Health, you're welcome to use this immediately. But also, if you just want to try it out for free, it's available right now on the community site. So Inbar, a little bit of background around what drove you to make that decision to update this.
So I think when we started doing the older version, if people were really already used to SAFE and especially in kind of, as you said, the middle portfolio level, they could understand some of the jargon that we had there, and they could say, are we doing participatory budgeting? But especially as they were getting started and we were trying to create a baseline, they weren't doing SAFE yet. So asking them, are we doing participatory budgeting? I don't know, what is that? Have you stood up an ART? I don't know, what is that? But once we stepped away from this and really focused about what are we trying to achieve here, and asked, are you creating a budget in a way that makes it easy to change mid-year? Oh, well, no, we're not doing that. I can relate to that as an executive. I can think about that. So it became easier for people to really run the assessment and get to a point where they're really trying to think about how well they're doing. And then, as you said, that had a lot to do with the feedback we were getting from the field around how can we make it more more easily digestible with people, and make it more accessible for more people. And so that's why we did it, as well as minor tweak to some of the questions that people were finding kind of they didn't really understand what they meant, and some of the evolution we have done with our own framework with the moving from 5.0 to 5.1. So a lot of those made it into that new version of the business agility assessment.
Well, it's a welcome update for sure. Welcome update. And so this is just a reminder again, if you're wanting to see what those radars look like and start even a trial within our platform, these are the radars. There's a new version created. I don't want to ever forget about the DevOps. That's kind of the oldest, most existing radar, and it's very popular and it's used still quite a bit by a lot of people, the DevOps radar. And you can find the visualization for all of them right here from agilityhealthradar.com/safe. And that is where you can also start your free trial, or if you want to go through our facilitator training, it's all from that page. But I also want you to remember, if you wanted to start now, like you've got a team, you've got a group of leaders, and you want to do this for free. You don't even want to come to the premium platform. You just want to use this for free. And by the way, it's unlimited times. So you can do it, now. You can do it again in 6 months if you want to. Some of our premium versions are not on the kiosk version, but this is all available right now. And Tricia will send a link to the community site and our Agility Health page, and you launch it right from there. When you launch the assessment, if you're doing it with a team, remember that there's something called a unique group ID. It's a number that you make up, a number or a character and numeric. So just come up with something, share it with everybody in the room, let them all answer the questions with that unique code, and then you'll see your results immediately. And then there's immediately benchmarking. So you'll immediately see other people that have answered the same questions. How did you relate to them?
And so I just want to build on what you just said. This is available to anybody on the Safe Community platform. And so if you're on the Safe Community platform, go click on the Measure and Grow, find the Agility Health Assessment, and from there you can go and Sally said, access all of these great assessments for free. Yes, there's a lot of amazing premium opportunities on the full platform, but there's a lot that you can do even with this offering that you get on the community platform. So go and check this out. Yeah, I think this is important.
Please do. We put a lot of effort into making this, before our kiosk was, you would only see your result, like my dot. But we really, with our partnership with SAFE, added the group ID, which means that you and 10, 20 other people can answer these questions, see the results immediately, and benchmark and see. So there's a lot here. So check it out. So keys to success with maturity and competency assessments. I just wanted to share some of ours, and I've already talked about this until I'm blue, which is never punish or reward. And my quote here that people like, which is, if you ever punish or reward the teams or their leaders, you'll never see the truth again. And so that's something I can promise you, is that, being in the world of measurements and metrics, whether it's quantitative data coming from the ALMs or whether it's qualitative data coming from these assessments, everybody can game the data. If you're going to give the leader a bonus or a promotion, if all their teams rank, in a specific number, all the teams will rank in that number in the next, quarter or PI. So just please make sure you're coming at this from a place of, how can I help you grow? Where are we today? What organizational obstacles do we need to remove for you as a team? Not from a carrot or a stick. That's old school leadership and management, and you don't want to be old school. Senior leaders should communicate the why and create psychological safety. Almost any time we are launching a Measure and Grow program, and I'm calling it a program. If you launch this as, hey, we're doing assessments using a new tool, it's dead on arrival. If you say we are investing in a Measurement and Grow program, and we are wanting to hear your voice so we can remove obstacles, and this is completely a tool for you to use so that you can improve, but we do want to roll up data and just see, do we have any common patterns? Are there any common things that we need to invest in? What do the leaders need to do to support you? That creating that psychological safety with that message up front is critical to your success. That's what's made us honestly grow and scale, is that we put so much effort into the initial change management and communication, and not just publish an assessment and send a survey out to people. That's also old school. Make sure you're using the facilitated format, not just a survey. We really believe this is a conversation. Would you ever, for retrospectives, everybody knows the value of coming together, having the conversation, committing to action. Again, Agility Health, is think about it, is what you're using within your Inspect and the Adapt. You're bringing people together in the INA, you're having a conversation. The platform is supporting that conversation with real data visualization. People have always asked me, when should the teams complete their team and technical agility or their team health retrospective? Inbar, I've said the last retrospective of the last sprint, you could actually use that time for them to enter in the data and answer, and then you can use the INA purely for just reviewing the results, rolling it up and doing root cause analysis and actually building an action plan. And some companies use the INA itself for all of it. They bring in the team, they break them out, they answer the questions on the assessments, they view the results, they build a plan. They do all of it within the INA. So I would say it's really up to you if you want to leverage that last retrospective to gather the data and then use the INA efficiently to analyze and report. Any input here, Inbar, that you've got on sort of lessons learned or keys to success?
So I agree with you. First of all, I agree that I would do it on the last retrospective. Yes, you could do it on the INA, but I think the time for the teams to actually do it and the time for the RTE to reflect and aggregate the data and bring kind of finding where the patterns are, they're really, really important. So if you're talking here about a roll-up of data, finding the patterns, if you do it on the last retrospective, there's time to actually think about it and use this to bring something more cohesive to the INA and not just say, okay, we've just done a retrospective, let's try to build some stuff out of it, which is really hard. I also think that what you said, and I think we're going to talk about that more later around the concept of facilitation. This is not about sending a survey and hoping that people will get it right and just sending surveys out there and having people answer them. So we don't have to talk about that right now because I know we're going to talk about that more, but I just want to agree this is a super important part of making sure it's successful.
Effective measurement. Actually, I've mentioned this, so I'm not going to cover it anymore, but don't use it for punishment or reward. But I wanted to talk about these three things, which is what companies come to us and say is, I don't even think we have clarity on what does good look like. And that is the goal of a radar. So what I love about, if you are a company that is adopting and scaling scaled Agile, you now have from SAFE, what does good look like? I mean, that is how scaled Agile is basically, embedding those guidance, those principles, those best practices in a consistent way across all of your teams. So think about those radars as a way to just align on what does good look like? What does great look like? Do we have a common definition? That kind of solves that problem for you. So you're not fighting internally about, what does your DevOps mean? What does my DevOps mean? Well, what does Agile mean to you? What does Agile mean to me, right? Those debates that are constantly happening. And then you need to make time for the measurement, which I love because within scaled Agile, we have the INA and we have the retros. So similar to what Inbar said, if you can actually make time, measure it, and then this is the part that's missing is the intentional time for growth. Because I've also seen people like in retrospectives, they come together, they make a plan, and then they do nothing about it. So as a leadership group, if any leaders are listening to me here, you have to make this a priority, not just for your teams to work on the team growth items and the organizational growth items. You have to work on the organizational. You have to figure out what were the impediments that were beyond the team's control, the obstacles that you have to remove. And that has to be part of your regular meetings moving forward. So I'm just emphasizing here that this is not just measurement and metrics. This is really about growth and action. And so taking it here to you, Inbar, for success factors here.
Yeah, and again, we talked a little bit about it. I think it's really important to really think about how do we understand how do you use the measurement with other things. So it's not just about really thinking about the measurement, really thinking about how do we make sure it applies to the right things. How do we apply them where they help? So it's, again, the goal is not just to measure. The goal is to use that as part of our journey towards business agility. How do we think about the effect of measurement? And you gave that example earlier. And I've seen this many times. So people will use, and this could be like maturity metrics, or this could be flow metrics. So let's say I'm saying, how many stories do you complete? That's what I'm going to measure. How many stories you complete? Well, I'm going to have really, really tiny, insignificant, non-valuable stories, because that's what you're measuring for. So that's what I'm going to create. And people are very cognizant of that. So people can game this, especially if you're using it to reward and to punish. And then really thinking about how do we interpret the metrics? What does it mean? So it's not about what does it mean that our flow isn't great or that our outcome isn't great, but how do we improve? So if we're seeing a problem with flow, where is the opportunity to improve that flow? If we see a problem with the outcome, then we're not achieving our business objectives. Why? Did we not understand what our business owners needed? Did we not have enough time? Did we overcommit? What happened? Why did we not achieve that predictability? So really thinking about what does that mean and how can we improve? And as you said earlier, focus on growth, not just on the measurement, but really focus on this. And for this, I think, again, going back to that facilitation, it's so key. If you have, and the AgilityHealth, you've always had that kind of focus on on facilitation and even the certification. I think that was always so key to what Agility Health has been about. And this is such a critical way to drive successful measure and grow retrospectives.
Yeah, it's just, we've learned this from the beginning because we've obviously experimented and piloted, and, people are just overwhelmed with surveys being sent to them at their desk for them. And that's not how you identify improvement. And so we've really, I don't know, 5 years ago now, started with the whole certifying facilitators, because what we realized is what we used to normally do in 2 weeks, which is to send out the surveys, to meet with people and interview them individually, to try to put up an Excel sheet and kind of create our own fake radar within Excel and then analyze it. All of that used to be 1 to 2 weeks of effort by several consultants. We can now take into this 2.5 to 3 hour workshop, like the INA workshop. And we realize there's an art to it. There's an art to timing it. There's an art to, breaking out the teams. There's an art to reviewing the results. There's an art to making sure that you're not telling the team what they should work on, but nudging them. There's an art to helping them interpret the radar, because some people get overwhelmed really quickly, like, I don't know where to start. So that is really why we created the facilitator certification. And we've had a lot of people say, well, why do I need to be certified to use your platform? That's crazy. Because we care about quality, honestly, is the bottom line. Yeah, it would be faster. I'm happy to just, sell you and be like, hey, go launch the assessment, good luck. But we care about quality, and we've had a lot of quality, and we have over 7,000, I think, now certified facilitators. So it's really exciting, but it's a very important part of our success. But one of the things I loved about what you put together here is just showing, what do you measure at every level? Can you tell us about this, almost like a balance scorecard?
Yeah. Sure. So really thinking at every level, what is the right thing to measure? And it does change. I mean, we've talked about it right now. The thing that a portfolio focuses about, things like the value stream KPIs, are different than the team PI objectives, whereas the team focused about. So really thinking about how do I achieve my outcomes at every level is important. And if you don't provide clarity on what it is, people just are left with not knowing what to do. I should measure outcomes at a team level. Okay, great. How do I do it? No, it's team PI objectives. How do I measure competency at the team level? Well, it's TTA assessment. How do I measure it at the team of team level, at the art level? Well, it's agile product delivery. And you could use the DevOps health radar that Sally talked about to really focus on how do we really think about that. At the portfolio level, there's the business agility assessment. There's also the lean portfolio management assessment. So we're trying to make it very concrete around, if you want to see how well you're doing in every aspect of your organization, you can use kind of this balanced scorecard. Of course, this is more complicated, and you can see that when you showed the outcome dashboard, because it's nested. A portfolio has multiple arts, and art has multiple teams. So it's not just like a three-dimensional sheet. It's really the ability to actually draw into this. And I think that's one of the interesting things you have with the insights that allows you to really see that.
Yeah, and I'll take you there just to share with you the vision that we've also had here, which is, again, I have an organization that's broken into portfolios. A portfolio has, in this case, a train, and this train, and again, it could have been solution, it could have been multiple layers there. But one of the things that we wanted to know is, for any layer that I click on, what is my overall agility? And I want to tell you, Inbar, we consider the word agility the combination of maturity and performance. So the qualitative metrics plus the quantitative metrics together is how we refer to agility. So we're basically saying, did you get better? Did you not get better over time? If you scroll down, we look at the maturity. So those are more of the qualitative metrics, that they get better or not over time. We look at the performance, and the performance are quantitative metrics. For us, the quantitative metrics, we get them from two sources. One of them is either, if people have been using the Team Health Radar, we have actually questions related to deployment frequency, feature throughput, MTTR predictability, all of that, defect ratio. But what we're also working on right now, and have made a lot of traction, is the integration. So with Jira Rally version 1 and soon to be Azure DevOps, actually pulling in some of those performance metrics so that you're actually seeing if you really performed over time or not. So again, being able to see the maturity, being able to see the performance, and then the most important part that I care about is, what are you going to do about it? Troy McGinnis, many of you here might know the name Troy McGinnis and Larry Matron, really have been amazing influence on us. But Troy is an amazing person at dashboard design, and he is the one behind this dashboard. And he's the one that's taught me this lesson, and I'm going to give this to you guys as a gift. Every dashboard has to answer 3 questions. What is the data telling me? So what? So what mean, is it good or is it bad? now what? Now what means what action should I take based on it? And so this is the, you know, what, so what, now what dashboard. And so the ability to see if you're getting better over time and how do I compare to the benchmark is the so what. And then the now what is right over here. Yeah, what, so what, now what? Good stuff, I know. Greg, thank you for that comment. But I want to give credit to Troy McGinnis, and I think he said he learned it from Larry Mascheroni. So, you know, credit to credit. Team growth items are, what are the teams working on to get better? What are the things that they're working on at their level? Organizational growth items are, what do the leaders need to work on to help this area, this group? And then the enterprise growth items are, what should the executives work on to help us move things forward? So I always tell executives when I show this dashboard, before I get to this part, I ask them, what's the most important question you should ask me now? And thank God, many of them say, what can I do to help? And I'm like, absolutely, not show me more metrics. It's, you know, what can I do to help? And that's what we want to answer over here. So this is, you know, this has always been our vision, is showing the maturity, showing the performance, and then hopping over to the outcomes is kind of how we try to bring those three together in BAR, you know, those three competencies, and the competency, the flow, and the outcome is really by putting them side by side, wherever that you're clicking on. All right, let's go now to the structural agility dashboard. A lot of people don't realize this because not everybody uses it, but at any level of the organization within Agility Health, you can hop on right over here to structural agility. And what you'll see is, let me take you to structural agility. Even if the teams have not done any assessments yet, I need to know structurally how stable are those teams. Does anybody here think that stability has a correlation with team performance and maturity? Does anybody here think that maybe, yeah, really? Stable teams are going to be higher performing. And we honestly wanted just to visualize that. We want to be like, hey, if you want to click on team agility and notice that your teams are kind of, you know, non-performing or something's happening, you might want to come over here and look and see how many times you're moving people in and out of the team. How do we measure stability? We look at it, the number of people that you put in and out of the team over the last 6 months. Example, if this team has 10 people and you took 5 people in and out over the last 6 months, that's a 50% stability rating. It's very simple. I'm sure we can make it more sophisticated and complicated, but this is as simple as we wanted to make it. 5 people out of 10 were in and out, either 3 people removed, 2 people added. You've made 5 changes to the team. That's a 50% stability. And you can see it at any level. The other thing that people are asking about right now, and I think is very important because this is all part of the metrics that you should look at, is allocation by role. So for example, you set up a rule within Agility Health that Scrum Masters on average should only be on 1 team. I know that's not happening anymore, but let's just say, okay, we're going old school again. And a Scrum Master should only be on 1 team, but you realize that across all the Scrum Masters that are here, on average, your Scrum Master is on 3 teams, which means across, I think there's like, how many teams do I have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's just say there's 6 teams for Sally's math. Across 6 teams, I only have 2 Scrum Masters. That means you have a pretty, you know, you're over allocated. And I think what this will be helpful for is, one, to set the gearing ratios. I do want to thank USAA as one of our customers that, you know, asked us to create this, because it was very visionary for them to say, how can I set gearing ratios? And then how can I measure against if these gearing ratios are happening or not? Some other things that people are looking for is how many full-time versus contractor. It's really been interesting, but there are some companies that have specific targets that they're trying to reach. Do I have all of the right roles within each team, or am I missing? I don't even have testers. I don't even have these roles. And then the last popular one is Agile adoption. How many teams are Agile? How many teams are waterfall or non-Agile? I'm hoping we're not having that conversation that much, because, you know, almost all teams should be moving to Agile or been Agile, but people are still asking that. You know, you're seeing now a lot of the laggards, the folks that have not started their Agile transformation, come on board, and they're actually saying, I still have waterfall teams, or I still have traditional teams, and they're not, you know, using Agile. So that metric is still important for me. This is just a screenshot from the growth dashboard, where again, I can click at every level and look at the organizational growth items or the team growth items. And then this is just a screenshot of some of our benchmark data. We have a large benchmark data for assessments, team members, and, you know, total users. Something exciting that I wanted to share sort of in the grand finale here before we take questions is, we did a research. We hired UNO, University of Nebraska in Omaha, their org psych division, and we've had this PhD expert working with us for the last 5-6 years. And recently he kind of refreshed all of his predictive analytics. And we asked him a very simple question. We said, now that we have quantitative metrics within Agility Health, not just qualitative, but quantitative, can you tell me what were the competencies that actually drove the highest performance? And this is what the end result was. So across 46,000 people, which is 4,600 teams, we will be talking about this in detail in October because I think this is super exciting. Weekly iterations was number one. So planning and delivering in short increments was the number one predictor for team performance. T-shaped, generalizing specialists, team members that can actually play other roles, not just their role, had a very big impact to quality, responsiveness, value, time to market. Planning and estimating, the ability to break work down into small sizes and planning ahead was number three. Creativity and innovation, teams being empowered to find creative solutions and the experiment was number four. And then self-organization, teams' ability to delegate decisions, or leaders' ability to delegate decisions down and let teams be empowered. I'm just going to ask everybody over here, do you notice anything here that surprises you? Because when I first saw this, there was something I noticed. I'm like, that's kind of cool. So people in the chat, talk to me. What do you see here that's exciting about, and where's my chat? I can't see the chat anymore. Can you read me, Inbar? Do you see anybody? What's a nice aha from these?
We haven't seen anybody come in yet, but team, if you've got anything, they're all safe concepts.
Mm-hmm.
Empowerment. Value delivered, creativity and innovation, do the basics.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know what was my biggest aha is all of us, when we think about the basic Scrum, the practices, which is weekly iterations and planning and estimating and doing stories and all of that, those were here. But look at generalizing specialist, creativity and innovation, self-organization. Those are mindsets and behaviors that Scaled Agile always advocates for. It's not just about the practices of Agile, which is the daily stand-up meeting, having the right demo, having the right retrospective. Those showed up over here in weekly iteration and planning and estimating. But some of the other things that some kinds of companies don't value as much, honestly, creativity, innovation, and self-organization and letting go of decisions. Some companies might say, well, that's just the foo-foo stuff. That's the soft stuff. And this actually shows you it's not the soft stuff. It's the stuff that actually led to high performance. So teams that rated themselves, that were rated the highest on those were 37% higher performing than teams that were on the lowest. So by what percent did this help them? It's 37%. That's a big number. That's close to 40% better performing than the teams that were the lowest on these metrics. We also added confidence and happiness because we care about happiness of the team and we care about confidence of the team and the product owner. And then two additional metrics showed up, which is clarity on roles and expectations and the team having the right size and skill. I'm excited to see you in October for this webinar. We'll be going a lot more into team and team agility. I hope you guys can sign up. Trisha will send the link to register right now. Okay, you can complete any SAFE assessment at no cost directly from the community site. I hope we got that out of the way. You can get a 30-day trial and get some of these premium, all of the premium features that you saw. Just reach out to us. You can email us or go visit this website. And you can also get certified at no cost. So that Agility Health Facilitator Certification for Scaled Agile, we're also waiving the fee for that. We love your feedback. I'm sorry that I didn't leave enough time for too many questions. I'll take probably two. If you don't mind, Trisha, sharing with them the webinar evaluation form so that we can hear your feedback. And if you do want me to send you these slide decks, fill out the evaluation form and you'll be on the list tomorrow to get the deck as well. Questions?
There's one that came in very early on that I wanted to make sure that we got answered. I hear more about the term indicators being used as the evolution of the metrics term. What are your thoughts?
I like the word indicators because metrics is just so generic and overused. And when you start talking about indicators, you're talking about leading indicators. You're saying what's driving a metric, what's driving that KPI. So I don't mind it at all because it shows that there's leading and there's lagging. So you'll hear that, and when you hear about, a leading indicator, it's something that we have control over, that we can actually influence, while, a KPI or an impact metric or a lagging indicator, those are three very relevant, but they're all results that you're looking for at the end.
Another one that we got very early on is how do you get along with team members with a traditional PM-based mindset?
Inbar?
So it's an evolution, and we have to work with everybody to really understand what we're trying to achieve. And again, if you're in a fight here, if this is, well, why aren't we doing Scrum, or why aren't we doing Safe, you'll usually hit people head on. But if you're focused on, well, what's the best way that we can achieve a result, and is the flow through our business agility value streams good enough? If you're focusing on that, it's possible to work better with people. And I think that's why we're focused here on measurement, and why we're talking about it here. Not because measurements are like, we think measurements are the most important thing in the world, but these are, we call this measure what matters, because they matter. If you focus and really have those conversations with people, this can direct people to understand, yes, we need to change this, and yes, we agree that there's a problem here. And sometimes just a discussion and the facilitation of these can create such amazing conversation, such amazing collaboration, that's why I love this domain.
Trisha, it looks like for some people the evaluations are blocked, so we got to probably find an alternative way for them to fill that out. That I wonder if it's blocked because of your company, or
it's blocked because it's a Google form. So it's
use your cell phone, Jennifer says. Thank you, Jennifer.
Yep. So use your cell phone for sure. We've also got a couple of questions around increased trust, around collaboration, creating safe workspaces, and how do we measure that? So if we could consolidate that into one question, team, since we're almost out of time.
We are over time. So I've just to respect everybody's time, I can stay just a few minutes later, but to respect everybody's time, thank you for being here. I really hope this was valuable. Inbar, thank you as always. I absolutely love presenting with you and sharing knowledge. For all of you that was here, give me a fist of 5 if you really loved this and got some value from it. And we'll be back with you. Inbar, do you have to go, or do you have 2 more minutes?
Nope, I can say a little bit more.
Great. All right, Trisha, go ahead.
Okay, increased trust. How do we measure that? And is trust a KPI or a leading indicator?
This is going to sound really funny, but for us in the Team Health Radar, we actually ask about trust and respect. Like it really is, there's a question around trust and respect. Inbar, is there one around trust in the TTA, the Team and Technical Agility?
Yeah, trust is such a crucial concept to build the everything here. But I think one of the interesting thing is, yes, it's there in the TTA assessment, but trust goes both ways. And one of the things that I think people under assess, and we have it in both of them, is not just do people trust the teams, but also do we trust the leaders? And so I think a lot of the time I've seen leaders who don't trust teams, but I don't see them thinking enough about the fact that sometimes the teams don't trust them. So trust goes both ways. And sometimes if you want to start with trust, you have to build trust by yourself.
Love
so
that.
Leading by example and thinking about that is important.
Love it. All right, Trisha, you got one more, or can we?
Is flow both efficient and effective, or maybe something else? That's our last one.
That's a deep one for the last one. Is flow
I know.
both efficient and effective? Just my quick kind of answer is flow is about efficiency. I would say business outcome is about effectiveness. Just my gut feel is, effectiveness is, are we doing the right thing? And to me, flow is, are we doing it well, efficiently? You know what I mean? We're cutting all of the junk in the middle. But, is what the team doing even effective? Is it even making an impact? I feel like is what outcomes is about. But that's sort of my kind of, knee-jerk answer here.
I agree.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the week. Thank you, Inbar. Thanks, Scaled Agile team.
Thank you, Sally. It was fun.
Thanks. Bye, everyone.